Hello, everybody. Hi. Good morning if you're in the US. Good afternoon if you're in Europe. And welcome for this new webinar of Iceberg Data Lab. And today we're going to talk about asset screening. We're going to talk about physical assets of companies. Iceberg Data Lab has screened and gathered a database of 10 million assets of companies, and they are now available on our console, our client platform, the Iceberg Data Labs console. And so that's what we will be presenting today to you. I have with me Shivari and Life. Hi, guys. Shivari is a part of our modeling team, and she has been designing the methodology of our asset screening tool. So she will tell you how she built that with the team and which challenges they had to face. And Life is our product owner, and he will show you how we have implemented that on the console, and we will do a live demo of the tool. So you will see how you can visualize the assets of companies and get to understand if they are at risk, because that's the question that our users are interested in, is defining, flagging the assets that are at risk for a company. And when we say at risk, it's located near or within a sensitive natural area. And that's what we've been doing. So first, before we start, we have a Q&A. So please ask all your questions. We have Sophia and Ruby from our team. They're answering real time to your questions. So click on the Q&A at the bottom right-hand side corner. Ask all your questions from now or later on, and you will get an answer. For us, we're going to tell you a first word about Iceberg before we jump to the methodology and the asset tool. So for the people who are joining us for the first time today, Iceberg Data Lab, we are a European fintech, green fintech. We aim to calculate the impact of corporates on the environment. When we say the environment, it's the impact in terms of climate, carbon, the impact in terms of biodiversity, or the impact in terms of deforestation. That's our new tool. So environmental impact calculation. We're European, Paris-based, and we are a young company because we have only 6 years of expertise, but already a worldwide franchise with financial institutions. So we are very proud of that, and we have won this year the ESG Data Provider of the Year prize from Environmental Finance. What do? We provide Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 upstream and downstream impact of corporates on the environment. This is a key differentiator from our data set, because especially Scope 3, upstream and downstream, is really hard to compute. That's something we do. And how do we do it? Because we analyze the whole value chain of companies. So all the goods, products and services consumed or produced by a company. And you can see we analyze more than 2,300 products and services. So we offer very granular data to our clients. Our coverage is 9,000 listed issuers. So that's our database for listed companies. That's what you will see on the console that we will show you in a moment. But bear in mind, we work a lot with private investors, private equity funds, infrastructure funds, They come to us because our model has been up and running for a few years now. It's very precise. We're able to compute the indicators and to produce environmental impact indicators, even on private companies or on a real estate or an infrastructure project. We are able to produce it if we are given with inputs such as turnover, sector, country, location of the assets, and then we are able to produce the indicators. So listed and unlisted companies. Finally, one key differentiator about Iceberg is our strong scientific backing. We are indeed very often mentioned in the academic papers within the sustainable finance world. So please have a look at the literature online. Plenty of researchers in the world, in famous universities, are using our data to make, to develop the research in sustainable finance. And we have a strong scientific committee that looks after all our methodologies and new products, such as the one you will see today. And within this scientific committee sits the WWF, the museum, the National History Museum from Paris, and other scientific bodies that have credibility in sustainable finance. Our product, I won't go into details, but we have climate solutions such as carbon, GHG, temperature alignment with the Paris Agreement. So we're able to give you all of that for a specific company, positive contribution as well, physical and transition risk indicators. And the other leg are the biodiversity solution with our flagship indicator, the corporate biodiversity footprint. And we have also positive contribution scores, deforestation indicators, and so on. But today we're going to talk about the assets, and let's kick off. We'll send you the slides and you could see as well our credentials with our client. But what are assets and why do they matter? Assets, when we talk about assets, first, we talk about physical assets that belong to a company with an intrinsic value. It can include real estate, infrastructure, warehouses, factories, headquarters as well of companies. So in the end, it's a lot of data that we have gathered. So I was telling you more than 10 million assets we have in our database. And of course, our teams have done an incredible work of cleaning this data, because our role is to provide financial institutions with quality data. So our users don't care about 10 million assets. They want to know the ones that are problematic, the ones that are located near a sensitive area. And the ones who are headquartered within central Paris near UNESCO World Heritage area is not something that might be problematic for the environment. So this gives you just an example, but a lot of work has been done to clear the database and give you only remove the noise and give you the value signals that our clients are looking for. Why do we care? Because, so a few use cases. So here on the screen, we've got the reporting use case, and a few regulations are actually requiring investors to have a thorough analysis of assets. This is part of CSRD, this is part of SFDR, and you can read on the slide exactly where it's mentioned. Those are for the compulsory or requirements in terms of regulation. Otherwise, in TNFD as well, if you aim to report TNFD with your company or with your fund, you must have a look at assets and in GRI also. So reporting is one use case. Risk analytics is another one. We are able to flag if one asset is problematic for a company. So we can do it at company level. You can also do it at portfolio level. And in terms of risk analytics, this solution is pretty interesting for a risk manager or a portfolio manager who aims to monitor asset level risk on their portfolio. Before we jump to the methodology, I would like to add that this screening that we can provide on assets is just one of all the screening that Iceberg Data Lab provides. We do screening at portfolio level in terms of fossil fuel, companies that are involved as well in weapons, in plastic, pesticide, palm oil, adult content. We've got plenty of screenings, and assets is actually just the last screening tool that we have released. So, Shivari, sorry for this long introduction. Let's talk about the methodology, please.
Yeah. So regarding the actual methodology, so it's based on simplified approach, but scientifically it's extremely robust. So we provide on one part an identification. So whether yes or no my asset is located within or close to a protected area, but also, and more importantly, quantification. How close my asset is and to what extent it impacts the ecosystem. So to do that, we have two major families of data. One side, you have the asset level data that we can link to economic entities through like deep learning algorithm, so the big treatment of data. And on the other side, we use like a diverse set of environmental maps covering protected areas. For example, IUCN areas represent protected high biodiversity value areas when ACDUC focuses on water stress risks. So when the maps are complementary, the analysis becomes more complex. And that's why we also enriches the asset data. So as assets are often provided only as single points, we convert them into spatial surfaces using models that are based on the type of the asset. So for example, a mine won't be modeled the same way as a power plant, and the characteristic matters. So if I'm a nuclear plant producing a certain megawatt capacity, this will influence the size of my model surface. And in this transformation from point to surface is really at the core of the methodology. So we can build an impact zone around, and we're going to calculate that impact zone for each asset. So an asset influences its environment, like its direct environment on its own footprint, but it also has an impact in the surrounding, and we will call that the impact zone. So this is what we model, and we take into account the decrease of impact with distance. So when this impact zone overlap with different categories of protected area, we can have like this quantitative indicator that will depend on the asset type and the type of map. We also have a screening flag, a simple yes, no, does my asset overlap with a protected area? And we do that on a very large database, like Thomas said, around 10 million assets. And we make these results available through the map, the visual map that is very intuitive, and that Life gonna show you. And we actually we cover the sector of energy, power, metals and mining, hotels, and the part of the industrial sector. And we want to expand it to all sectors by 2026.
Yeah, so there will be plenty of things coming up in 2026 about the assets, but we'll tell you in a minute.
Yes. So a bit more about the methodology, like scientifically. So the first step was to gather all the databases on protected areas. And for that, we relied directly on the TNFG recommendations because they give very clear guidance on the type of zone you need to use. So the datasets are quite complex, so we spend a lot of time processing them, cleaning, refining, and keeping only what's relevant for biodiversity analysis. And just a quick recap for the type of maps we use. So IUCN protected areas, it's a global coverage of national parks and protected zones. Natura 2000 sites, it's specific to Europe. Ramsar sites, it's for wetlands. And ACDUC data, it's for the zones under water stress. So on that side, we have the maps, and on the other side, we build the full database of assets. So as there is a wide variation in terms of quality and formats, we need to do a lot of standardization between the data. And that's where we use deep learning algorithm to be able to map ownerships between this big database and our clients' entities, companies. So as I said before, we transform our assets from point to surface to be able to define around the impact zone. And this impact zone is split into three buffers. So high, medium, and low, which will reflect how much impact an asset can have on biodiversity, but decreasing with distance. So for instance, a coal mine has a high impact buffer of 5 kilometers, meaning it can strongly affect biodiversity within that radius. But for example, an office building has a much smaller high buffer, less than 1 kilometer. So all these distances are based on the UNEP studies, so the environmental program of the United Nations, and we model both direct impacts. So direct impact is the pollution, the habitat degradation at this point, and also the indirect impact. So it's socio-economic effect when there is a new infrastructure and that will trigger new activity and population growth around the assets. And so when we have all the databases, we apply the scientific approach that I described, and we generate this visual interactive map where you have the surface of overlap in square kilometers, you have the yes/no flag, and you have the total impact score in square kilometer, where we use each buffer with a coefficients to reflect the fact that impacts naturally weaken over the space. And then I will just quickly review the metrics available on the platform. So we provide this set of complementary indicators. First, we include the number of assets identified as impacting protected areas to have this high-level screening of the portfolio. Then we have, of course, the interactive map, which clearly visualize the location of assets and the interface with the areas. We also provide a top 5 list of companies with the highest number of assets located near or overlapping protected areas to follow a worst-in-class principle. It's also possible to quantify exposure in monetary terms, meaning the value of investment in companies that have assets affecting a sensitive area. So we have this financial exposure too. And finally, we include, this quantified impact that I told you about. We calculate the total area of overlap between assets and protected area at the portfolio level, and we break that down by type of area and by type of assets.
Thank you, Shivari. So we understand how this data that we compute for companies can be useful at portfolio level, and especially for risk monitoring or even engagement. We also have impact fund or activist fund who are doing engagement thanks to this data. So what about a concrete use case now? How does it look like live?
Yes.
Sorry, I'll do.
Thanks. So, as Thomas said, we want to look at 3 levels, I think, and we've seen now how the tool works, where we inspired ourselves. So we will stay even in the use case close to, for example, the SFDR reporting, which is the obligatory reporting you have to do as a financial institution, and where it says, for example, to report on assets that are in or near sensitive areas. So to do that, let's just look into the platform itself and then start with one single asset, see potential impacts, and from there we'll work our way up to the company level specific use cases, and then the portfolio level with more screening oriented use cases. So here we're looking at Glencore, I think a relatively famous mining company. You can already see some other indicators that we offer, a little bit of a dissection of their activity, economic activity. But if we go down and then we find ourselves on the assets page, we are looking at a map, and I will just choose maybe one that has a high impact. So on the left, we see a list, whereas on the right, we see a map. And as soon as I just click on this, the Ernest Henry copper mine located in Australia, if I'm not mistaken, is a good example, because here we see already that there is definitely some impact. We see a blue shape. And if we want to know what that is, we can just select or toggle on the bottom right the different types of sensitive areas that we want to look at. So if I wasn't interested, for example, in water stress, I could deselect it, but of course I am, since especially mines are consuming a lot of water. What else can we look at on the asset level? Because of course, not only we need to know whether it's located in a sensitive area, but also which type and how much, let's say. So we can look, we can first verify that actually this map is correct, asset is correctly mapped. And if we zoom into the satellite view, we can definitely identify some sort of open pit mine here. There's the crater, so that's correct. And then we can also go into the footprint impact. So that's just the actual surface of the asset, and see to what degrees it overlaps with different, let's say, sensitive zones. Here, both overlaps are in some way the same zone, just different parts of it. So that's why it's 2 times. And you can even have some more detail that is directly provided by the Aqueduct database, and we integrate it into the platform. And then if you want to know also what are the kind of lower impacts for further away areas, in this case, it's the same, because there's not any other sensitive zone close to this asset. But for example, now we're also touching on a third water stress zone here on the top left, and that also gets mentioned, of course. So this is a way to know about a problematic asset, and already provides you with the location and the potential risks that are connected to it. So the next step would be to kind of move onto the company level. So I'm going to go back here just to be able to provide some text context and not only rely on the platform. Now, so now I identified, for example, let's say not only this one copper mine that's close to a water stress area, but another one. And for my investment into Glencore, I might want to know, okay, what is actually happening with these two? Because if I just ask the company, okay, do you have any problematic assets? They might just say no. If, however, I can tell them you have 2 assets, I know the exact coordinates. Can you tell me what you did to prevent any negative impacts on the environment? For example, overuse of water, then the answer would have to be somewhat more qualified. And for example, them responding by, yes, we have implemented a water saving program, or water filters to filter seawater, something like that, that can kind of justify the location of the asset. Or if not, then of course that can also have other consequences, and we're going to touch upon on the portfolio level. So on the company level, you have the assets, you have the potential risks. And if you wanted to, I mean, first of all, you will report about it. That's kind of the obligation. And on the second level, you could also engage with the company and see whether something can be done about these potential risks. Then on the third level, where maybe you move past that step and you want to rather compare different companies, then we are at the portfolio level. Here we move within just one sector, because of course it makes more sense, I think, to compare companies within a sector for this specific exercise we're doing. Of course, mining companies will be a little more problematic with their real assets than, say, a bank. But in any way, you might not want to divest completely from the sector. So you have to choose, okay, which ones are the ones with most impactful assets. And after going through the list, for example, that we just saw on the platform, you can just count the high impact companies, or you can also get the KPI directly from the platform. And then, for example, decide, okay, these 2 on the left, that's a little too much for me, or maybe they didn't have any policies intact that would prevent damage onto the environment. And so I'm going to prioritize other companies in my investments. Yeah, that's the screening example, where you've just sought out companies. We've seen before the engagement example, where you can press investees on specific issues that are problematic. And then at the very beginning, we had the reporting use case, where you can directly export coordinates and report about potential risks. And that's, I think, the main
Thank you, Live.
use cases.
Yes. And could we have a look at the platform again? the console, because you are just looking at the new Iceberg console. So if when we go back to a company, if we're looking at Glencore, so for the people who are already Iceberg Data Lab users, you're recognizing a new platform. You can see it has been refurbished totally, and you can see now all indicators we provide. So here today we were just focusing on that specific category assets, but you can see on that horizontal line, you see all the other products, biodiversity at the beginning, dependency, carbon footprint, physical risk, and all of that up to deforestation and the regulatory products we provide. On that platform, you can also upload your own portfolio, and you will have access to the whole portfolio screening tool. You will have aggregated data for your portfolio and all those flags about the assets as well we were mentioning. We'll talk about that in other webinars, but if you are already Iceberg user and you would like, so maybe it has already been deployed on your account, so please have a look if you have access already to the new console. If you don't have access, please come back to us. We'll enable you. It's just being released right now. It has been released this week, so we'll have anyway another webinar to show you that. Just to recap on our offer, you understood we offer one visualization of the assets on the console, where you can see with a very precise manner what is the sensitive area it conflicts with, and where exactly is located the asset. Then we offer screening at portfolio level, and we will offer on your portfolio a flag to say if an asset is at risk or several assets are at risk. And we will even display the revenue share at risk for the company. Finally, we are finishing up this product, and we aim to commercialize as well the whole asset database for our clients. So we're talking about millions of assets this time, from public company, but as well from private companies with the exact coordinates. And this will be available early 2026. So please, if you want to follow up, current Iceberg user or not, please click on the poll that was just mentioned, and we'll get back to you. Guys, thank you very much for this session. Thank you, everybody. We'll meet you soon for next webinar, early December. It will be about regulation this time, because reporting season is here. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.